Everyone, Alex Tardy here, meteorologist with Weather Echo. Thanks for tuning into our latest weather insight. Boy, was it hot. It continues to be much warmer than average across the West, but we set a lot of records. We're going to talk about that. And can you believe it? A significant storm and precipitation is coming up late March and early April. Well, this is not uncommon because in order to get big heat waves, you typically need a storm, but further upstream. You saw a lot of flooding in Hawaii. That rain and the energy from that produced this massive heat wave over the past 2 weeks. Now we've got some colder air and a jet stream dropping down from the Gulf of Alaska. Let's take a look at this latest insight. Okay, here I'm showing you departure from average temperatures. This is a 30-year average. Look at the red in the west, especially in the southwest. And that's the warmest across the entire country over the past 2 weeks by far, several degrees above average. Now, when we look at temperature, we consider the high temperature and the low temperature in what I'm showing you here. That carries more weight. That's your 24-hour, your full daily temperature. And that really is the impact to humans and to vegetation when you have excessive heat. Look at the ranking. This is hard to do. We've only seen this in a few heat waves in the past 10 years, particularly September heat waves, even in July as well. But what I'm showing you here again is the average temperature, the high temperature, the low temperature. I looked at the highs and lows and they were mostly all number 1, 2. You average them together and you get 1. Now, this is not just California, all the Southwest, all the way through the Great Basin. Number 1, so this is saying the warmest period ever for March. Now, that's why we broke all-time records in March too, with high temperatures across much of the same area. Okay, if you look at the start of the water year, so basically our winter, our rainy season, you can see that in the west, we've actually had the warmest conditions over the Great Basin. Incredible warmth since October 1st. And cold conditions persisted this winter in the northeast. Now, for precipitation on the left-hand side, the wettest area remains the northern plains and, of course, south central California. The driest area remains the central plains. We've already seen some big fires. So the central plains into the south, much drier than average as shown here. Incredible warmth in the west, especially the Great Basin. Now, this has taken a toll on our snowpack. Take a look at the snowpack here. I'm going to start with New England on the right-hand side. But that area had a great winter and colder than average. But they've had a recent rapid snowmelt. Now take a look at the Great Lakes. They've had a big season of lake effect snow, and they had a recent storm as well in that area. Now the west, on the left-hand side, Sierra Nevada, most areas in the brown, much below average, especially the northern area. The Wasatch and the Utah mountains, take a look at that area, also much below average. And Colorado, unfortunately, as well, much below average. Now let's look at California in particular. These numbers are staggering. 25% of average to date. So we have 1/4 of the snowpack. So much of the snow we did have has evaporated and, of course, melted in the recent heat. So we're able to put a lot of this water into the reservoirs, but we're not going to have our normal slow snowpack to really keep those reservoirs full through the spring. If we look at past years, I want to talk about 2014-15. That's the least amount of snow. That's the snow drought year to compare to. That's the least amount of snow ever recorded on record. And we are down near those numbers. I got an arrow pointed to you on here. I plotted some other years too, like the really snowy years of 2022-23 and 2016-2017. Yes, 2016-2017, 2022-23. Those are the two of the wettest years and snowiest years in California. And those were La Niñas. Okay, so what are we expecting? Can we rebuild the snowpack? Well, it looks like we'll get significant snow in the upper elevations, but more importantly, we'll get widespread precipitation. And that widespread precipitation is going to help us not go into an early fire season. So help keep us somewhat green, even though a lot of the grasses are already curing. So what's going to happen? We're going to have this upper level high pressure. It's already starting to weaken. It's going to shift to the east. It's not going to go away. It's going to go over the lower plains in Texas and hang out there for a while. I got an arrow pointed to what's going on in the North Pacific and Gulf of Alaska. That's going to eventually drop down across Northern California. So that jet stream starts to buckle in North Pacific towards the end of the month. It looks like the system will begin to arrive around the 31st of March, so late March to Northern California as shown here. So big relief for widespread rain and snow. By the way, the weather models have been showing this the past 4 days, so this is not something new as of this recording. We're now getting a lot more consistency overall, but this has been advertised for several days now of a big change. It's hard to believe that after record heat and dry temperatures, the snow melt, that we would actually see a storm moving into California. I know that might be hard to believe, but the weather models don't care about that. And they've been predicting this for 3, 4, in some cases even 5 days ago. Now, this should be our main storm. It's relatively slow moving, April 1st and 2nd. No April Fool's joke, as I posted on here. This system will carve down into the Pacific Northwest and, importantly, Northern California, Central California as well. Now, there were some projections about 4 or 5 days ago that this would move over Southern California and bring the coldest air down there. But now it looks like it's going to remain what we call progressive, meaning it moves along and it doesn't dig. Common this time of year, you get systems that do dig, close off, and really slow down. This looks progressive west to east. Still significant widespread precipitation for California and much of the west. Notice the upper ridge, it's over Florida by this time in early April. Now this does have an atmospheric river as shown here. It's weak and it's broken in pieces, but it does have tropical moisture to work with. Nothing like what just happened in Hawaii with those atmospheric rivers. Those were powerful and persistent, but we do have plenty of Pacific moisture, tropical moisture even, to work with as shown here on March 31st and April 1st. Okay, these are some of the latest projections. You can see the Sierra Nevada is really targeted. This is the perfect scenario for the Sierra Nevada, and also the northern Utah mountains get a glancing blow as well with the leftovers. Now, there will be some precipitation that makes it into Southern California, but generally on the light side because it's not digging and closing off like I just discussed. So this is a very good, what we call upslope orographic event. Heavy precipitation along the foothills in Sierra Nevada. This is great for central Northern California to buy us some time through April for the fire season, because after these record-breaking, never-seen-before temperatures, all-time high temperatures that have occurred, that is a rapid snowmelt and a rapid stress to our vegetation, meaning it's a fire weather concern. Now, the ensemble model predictions, they're also starting to show, and they just started doing this a couple days ago in the lower left, the green across the west and the middle of the country. So the dip in the jet stream, which is going to be week 2 or late March, early April. Now, what I wanted to show you here on the next slide is this is what was predicted a long time ago. Take a look at this. This is a forecast 2 weeks ago, and it did indicate and show the major rainfall in Hawaii. It did show a dip in the jet stream, not exactly perfect in the lower left there, but it did show a dip in the jet stream 3 weeks in advance. Notice it shows that massive heat wave shifting over the Great Basin where it is centered right now. And it showed a breakdown or near average temperatures dropping into Northern California. So prediction of these type of weather patterns is possible 2 to 3 weeks in advance. Not always, and not precise, and not the details that you might want to see, but the general weather pattern can be predicted that far in advance. Okay, now can we predict further than that? Well, the short answer is no. But we can predict ENSO, which is ocean temperatures along the equator. It's not a weather pattern. It's not a storm like you see on social media. It's not El Nino rain, El Nino weather. El Nino is the ocean temperatures and the conditions along the equator. It's a very normal process from cool to warm in that area. Right now, we're seeing a transition from the cooler phase in the blue shown here, and it's transitioning into the El Nino phase. And we can forecast this as shown here on the right-hand side, and it looks like the forecast indicates for this summer, which is normal in a transition, and into this fall for a rapid increase. Now, if you're going to have a rapid increase, it's typically during the summer and early fall, and that's what's projected. By next winter, you can see we're potentially in the strong phase of El Nino. Now, this does not mean rain. This does not mean snow. This does not mean a weather pattern. But this warm water in the equator does affect our jet stream. It makes it more consolidated, typically more elongated across the Pacific. It makes it more powerful because you have more of a contrast between the cold air in Canada and the Gulf of Alaska that's already there that time of year in the winter. And you have warmer than usual tropical air as well. So you get a more contrast, more wind speed. Now keep in mind, the last strong El Nino, the really big super El Nino, was pretty much a bust. Most of California was average or below average. So this is why it is not a weather pattern. It's not a storm. The wettest and snowiest years in California history have been 2016, 2017, as I mentioned, 2022, 23. Those were both La Niñas. But this is good news because someone in the Western United States and Western North America will get enhanced and more precipitation. Hopefully it's down into California for our snowpack and our water supply. But we don't know. We honestly don't know right now where that most active jet stream will set up. Typically with a strong El Nino like this, you see bigger surf conditions even if you don't get the rain, because you have more energy in the Pacific driving the swell, driving the surf. That more energy translates into some bigger and more persistent, consistent, more frequent storms. This past year, we basically had 3 storm cycles: mid-November, late December, and early January. And then we had another one in February, and now we're getting a glancing blow of one here in March. So it's important to understand what El Nino does. It changes the weather pattern, but it doesn't necessarily point it to a particular location in the West. It enhances the jet stream, though. That is true. So something to keep an eye on and talk about as we go through this upcoming summer and into the fall. Now, this can also affect our temperatures, the warming of the ocean. We can see warming of the California Bight commonly in El Nino as well. So this can affect ocean temperatures, which can affect our humidity in California and also affect our overall summer temperatures as well. Typically can make them a little bit warmer, heat waves a little bit more. Now, this is not why we're having a storm in March. This is not why we had record heat in March. Thanks for tuning into this weather insight. Hope you found it useful. You can track us on Threads and X. We're also on TikTok and YouTube. We posted information about this storm pattern change here in late March, early April on those outlets a couple days ago. You can also follow us on our blog as shown here at weatherecho.com. All right, everyone, what a heat wave that was. We don't need that again in April and May. Hopefully not. And this precipitation coming up for most of California affected by it will be a welcome. All right, everyone. Thank you.